Somewhere in Illinois in 1955, a milkshake machine salesman shook hands with a soft drink executive, and neither of them had any idea they were about to build one of the most profitable partnerships in the history of food. The salesman's name was Ray Kroc. He had just opened a hamburger stand called McDonald's. The executive worked for Coca-Cola, and the deal they struck that day, almost as an afterthought, would eventually generate more profit than the burgers, the fries, and everything else on the menu combined. Here is a number that should stop you for a second. The drink sitting in your cup holder right now cost the restaurant somewhere between 15 and 35 cents to make. You paid up to $4 for it. That is not a good deal for you. That is one of the highest markups in the entire retail economy, higher than diamonds, higher than designer handbags, higher than the espresso at a 5-star hotel. And it is sitting in a paper cup with your name spelled wrong on the side. For decades, we have been told the fast food business is about the burger. It is about the beef, the secret sauce, the billions served. But the burger is actually one of the least profitable things these companies sell. The real business, the one that never makes it onto a billboard, is liquid. It is ice, carbonated water, and about an ounce of syrup. And once you understand how that works, you understand how an entire industry manages to sell you a $1 cheeseburger and still make a fortune. So let's follow the drink, from the syrup plant to the cup in your hand, and figure out exactly how spare change turns into one of the most reliable profit machines in retail. Start with the raw math, because it is almost embarrassing. A large fountain soda is basically 2 ingredients, carbonated water and syrup. The water is essentially free, filtered tap water pumped with carbon dioxide that costs pennies per gallon. The syrup costs more, but a single bag of concentrate stretches across hundreds of finished drinks. Add the cup, the lid, the straw, and the ice, and the entire physical cost of a large soda usually lands somewhere under 35 cents. Now look at the price tag. Depending on where you are, that same cup sells for somewhere between $2 and $4. Run the numbers, and you land on a profit margin that regularly clears 80 to 90%. Compare that to the burger next to it on the tray.
Every bottle begins with carefully selected ingredients delivered to a modern beverage factory. Cleaning, and precise preparation ensure every bottle meets strict production standards. Advanced automation transforms prepared ingredients into perfectly filled bottles ready for inspection. After rigorous quality checks, every bottle is packaged and shipped to stores around the world,
which might carry a 20 to 30% margin once you factor in the beef, the bun, the cheese, the labor to grill it, and the box it comes in. Ounce for ounce, the soda is frequently the single most profitable item a fast food restaurant sells. It has real competition though. French fries run an almost identical playbook. A handful of potatoes costs the restaurant next to nothing, and the finished product can carry a markup north of 1,000%. So on paper, fries occasionally outmargin the drink. But soda wins where it actually counts, which is total dollars generated across a day of business. It scales cheaper, it upsells easier, and unlike fries, almost nobody orders a meal without one. No chain has weaponized this quite like McDonald's, and the story runs straight back to that 1955 handshake. Ray Kroc met a Coca-Cola executive named Waddy Pratt, and within a few hours the two had agreed to grow their companies together, city by city, eventually country by country. That relationship never cooled off. Today, Coca-Cola runs an entire internal division built around one client, and insiders have half-joked for years that McDonald's does more Coke volume than most countries do. Buried inside that decades-old arrangement is a clause most customers have never heard about. Coca-Cola is contractually barred from selling its syrup to any other restaurant chain for less than what McDonald's is charged. McDonald's is not just a customer. It is the customer the entire pricing floor is built around. That relationship also explains something a lot of people have noticed without ever knowing why. McDonald's Coke tastes different. It is not in your head. Most restaurants receive Coca-Cola syrup shipped in plastic bags inside cardboard boxes. McDonald's receives its syrup in refrigerated stainless steel tanks, kept cold from the bottling plant all the way to the fountain machine. The water is filtered before it ever touches the syrup. The syrup-to-water ratio is set slightly higher than the industry standard, specifically to account for the ice melting in your cup, so the drink tastes just as sharp on the last sip as it did on the first. Even the straw is engineered a bit wider than a normal straw, designed to move more liquid across your tongue with every pull. None of it is accidental. Every detail exists because a marginally better-tasting Coke keeps you ordering it, and every single order of that Coke is close to pure profit. But the margin on one medium drink is only half of the machine. The bigger trick fast food chains have engineered is not just what the drink costs to make, it is making sure almost everyone orders one, and then quietly talking them into a bigger cup. Combo meals now account for roughly half of all fast food sales, and industry research suggests something like 2/3 of customers choose the bundle over ordering items individually, largely because a fixed price feels like a better deal even when the actual savings are close to nothing. This is where the drink does its quiet work. A combo might list a burger, fries, and a drink for $8. The burger might carry a 30% margin. The fries might run 60%. The drink is sitting at 80 or 90%. Because the whole thing is sold as one bundled price, you never see those numbers separately, and the restaurant never has to explain why a cup of syrup water is doing more financial work than the food. Then comes the line you have heard 1,000 times without thinking about it. Would you like to make that a large for 50 cents more? That 50 cents is almost entirely profit. Upsizing a drink costs the restaurant a fraction of a cent in extra syrup and a slightly bigger cup. There is no line cook, no extra prep time, no additional ingredient sourcing. It is the single easiest upsell in the entire restaurant, which is exactly why every register and every drive-through headset is trained to ask it automatically. Cup sizes have crept upward for decades for this exact reason. What used to be labeled large in the 1950s would barely qualify as a small size today. That growth did eventually hit a wall. As portion sizes ballooned through the 90s and 2000s, public pressure over obesity and sugar intake pushed McDonald's and others to quietly retire supersizing altogether. It was a rare moment where the profit engine ran directly into public health concerns, and the industry had to back off, at least officially. The incentive to keep growing that beverage business never went away. It just got repackaged. That 80 to 90% margin on soda is also doing something less obvious. It is subsidizing the rest of the menu. Dollar menu items and other cheap combos frequently sell at cost, or occasionally at a small loss, once you account for ingredients, packaging, and labor. Restaurants can afford to do this because the drink sitting next to that cheap item is quietly making up the difference many times over. The $1 cheeseburger is not really a standalone product. It is a loss leader, kept alive by the beverage riding along beside it. Free refills work the same trick from another angle. Filling a cup back up costs the restaurant close to nothing, mostly water, carbonation, and a splash more syrup. But it buys something valuable: time. A customer who sits down and refills their drink twice is a customer who stays in the building longer, is more likely to order a snack later, and associates the visit with generosity rather than a stingy small cup. Not every chain offers it, and it tends to show up more at dine-in locations than drive-through heavy ones, because the value of that extra dwell time only exists if the customer is actually sitting in the restaurant to enjoy it. As soda consumption in the United States has slowly declined over the past 2 decades, fast food chains have not abandoned this playbook, they have expanded it. Walk into almost any major chain today and you will find espresso machines, blended fraps, sweet teas, flavored lemonades, and increasingly, protein shakes and energy drinks. The ingredients behind these are still cheap: milk, coffee concentrate, flavored syrup, ice. The markup logic is identical to a fountain soda, sometimes even better, because customers are willing to pay a premium for something that feels more crafted than a plain cola. An entire supply industry has grown up around feeding this shift, with beverage manufacturers now building portioned, ready-to-blend mixes specifically so that a 16-year-old working the counter can produce a consistent specialty drink in under 30 seconds. The format keeps changing. The economics underneath it do not. Zoom out and you can see why all of this matters so much to the industry as a whole. Fast food restaurants typically run on razor-thin profit margins, often somewhere between 5 and 8%. Occasionally stretching closer to 20% for the best-run operations. Food costs alone usually eat up somewhere around 1/3 of total revenue. In a business that tight, a category with margins 9 or 10 times higher than everything else on the menu is not a nice bonus. It is the buffer that keeps the entire operation profitable. Strip beverages out of a fast food chain's revenue and you would strip out a meaningful chunk of its actual profit, even though drinks might only represent a modest slice of total sales. That is the real story behind the cup in your hand. It is not really about Coke or Pepsi or the specific brand on the fountain machine. It is about a business that figured out, decades before most industries caught on, that the most reliable way to make money is not to sell people something expensive. It is to sell them something that costs almost nothing, dress it up as part of a better deal, and ask every single time if they would like to make it a large. So the next time you are standing at a counter or leaning out a drive-through window and someone asks if you want to upsize your drink, you will know what that question actually is. It is not really about your thirst. It is the most valuable 4 words in the entire transaction.